afternoon, everyone. I know I'm between lunch and very grumbling sounds I can hear from tummies. I'll keep it short. I'm Saritha Radhakrishnan. I'm the HR Director for Tektronix. Tektronix is a part of Fortive, and Fortive is a company many of you may have heard of Danaher. We spun out from Danaher in 2016, and we are a diverse set of companies working in workplace safety, engineering, and healthcare. 16 companies, 17,000 people, 50 plus countries, so it's like a highly diverse team. I'm going to take you through our journey. I want to share some perspectives. Like Kasturi said, I'm not an expert by any means on IT, but Fortive has taught a lot. My personal journey in terms of driving IT has been extremely beneficial, changed me as a person. So let me just give you a glimpse of some learnings that I've had. Sorry, I'm not good with juggling many things. So this is all about Fortive. Is it coming across as like blurred? Oh, I'm very sorry. Fortive.com, go through that and you will learn more. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so you may wonder the first thing when people see this slide, when employees join us is we hear DEI. Why is it that it's IDE? I think probably, I don't know, correct me in the audience if somebody calls it IDE. At least in my knowledge, we are the only ones who calls it IDE. And this is what IDE stands for. As you can see, inclusion, everybody explained, but I'll just still reiterate. It's an environment where everyone feels respect, belonging, empowerment. Diversity is the different dimensions of diversity that you want to attract to your organization. And equity is providing the tools. Both the speakers emphasize so much about equity. How do we give people tools to succeed? Any idea why we put I first? Some audience interactions. Yeah, that's one of the things for sure. Yeah, a lot of employees actually answer like that. Any other thought from the audience? Yes, Kasturi is very close to that. So if you don't focus on I as a dimension, you will not get D&D. So basically focusing on I, the byproduct of that is D&D. You really look at it. If you don't have policies which train your leaders to be inclusive, no matter how much diversity you build, how much equity you talk about, and they don't show those traits, your organization will not be set up for success. So Fortive taught me this, and I think it's working really well. We are one of the organizations with very high employee experience survey scores, especially inclusion and belonging. We are always like 80 plus, and Fortive globally has got recognized for many of these dimensions. Happy to put you to people if you want to learn more about IDE. I have many mentors sitting in the organization guiding us on this. Moving on, again, sorry, many of you already know a lot of things that I'm talking about, but at least a passing to set the framework, I would like to use some of these slides. As you see, why we put inclusion first is, it's about everyone. So when I walk into a room, I should be treated like exactly like the sari example I like. And we spoke about wearing sari, and so many times we call it microaggressions. It's most of the time unintentional. Like, oh, coming from this background, the way you're talking, it's extremely impressive. What do you mean? It's a microaggression, like. So you walk away with, did I really deserve it? Or are they complimenting? So these are all like small little things that we have to be aware of. So why inclusion comes first, let me reiterate. Unless you invest on your leaders to develop those traits, nothing is going to work. I hope my fellow speakers also agree with that. Yeah. So calling ID itself made a huge difference to our organization. This is just to set the stage, some of the commonly observed, and these are not the only non-inclusive behaviors. I hope you can read, otherwise I can just quickly talk about some of them. What are some commonly observed non-inclusive behaviors? At least it's coming down, but when we started the journey about 7-8 years back, we could see selective mentoring, inattentive listening, long meetings. How many of you actually thought long meetings is a non-inclusive behavior? Have you ever felt that? Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Long meetings. What do you feel when you sit in long meetings? They are not respecting my time. I have so many other things to be done. They are not giving importance to my responsibilities. And it's not just men. I know not just men or women. There are men and women sharing responsibilities these days. And if you sit in late evening meetings, it's very non-inclusive. That's another example. Playing favorites. We all know this. Microaggressions, which I just spoke about, it's most of the time unintentional is what I've noticed. So when you educate, they become more aware of what I should say and what I should not say to my team members. Lack of representation, yeah, this is something constantly we are working on. Everyone, it's not just women. In fact, we do a good amount of education around the LGBTQ plus community. In our organization, so far only 2 people have walked up to me and spoken about, hey ma'am, thanks for organizing this. This session helped me come out. Now my manager is more accepting. But it's just 2 people. Imagine like out of 800 people, just 2 people are open enough to come and talk about, hey, I belong to this tribe. Will I be accepted? So these are some non-inclusive behaviors. The reason I thought, many times I have noticed, even most of my leaders also, it takes some time for them to realize that they are non-inclusive unknowingly. Let me not say knowingly. So, including one of my favorite leaders, 6 years back when I spoke to him, it's like, Saritha, why are you harping so much on inclusion? Don't you think we are already inclusive? And we had a journey together, researching and talking about all this. So, of course, it's a continuous journey, and slow and steadily we are making progress. Dimensions of diversity, this is nothing new I'm talking about, all of you know, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, as my friend sitting there put it. She says, Sari, this is not comprehensive, there is so much more, but we don't even think. Most of the times, at least few years back, diversity meant gender diversity, sexual orientation, race, religion. Have you ever thought of personality styles? So we do trainings on DISC. DISC is a personality style assessment. If I'm a D, and how do I deal with an I? Or if I'm an I, how do I deal with an S? It's a topic by itself. So running such programs in the organization helps you appreciate different personality styles. Otherwise, I will usually like people who are like me. So this is one of the examples of being open to different dimensions of diversity and how do you handle that. I hope this picture is at least visible. It's about a visual where somebody is cycling in a slightly difficult terrain. And the first picture talks about, a person may experience pain. It may be an enjoyment, like my husband loves cycling. He'll be enjoying if he's on a path like this. I'll be in pain, and my yoga guru may be doing it for health reasons. So the same thing, imagine an assignment you're giving to an employee. The same thing different people with different levels of experience and skills will experience it differently. And that's where the equity comes. Most of the time, equity is equated with equality. Equality is not equity. Equal opportunity, it's equality. But if you say, most of the line managers I work with still talk about it. If I treat men, women, people with different sexual orientations, different races equally, why are you talking about equity? Am I not already being, practicing equity? No. Different backgrounds means different privileges they have come with, grown with. So, for example, people from the rural background with limited access to language, English, you need to invest more in them to be more confident about communication. Or it can generally, the imposter syndrome, I know men and women go through it, but at least in our organization, much more women are experiencing, I have noticed. So how do you coach them to be more ambitious and more accepting of what they have learned? These are some examples. So mentorship for women and underrepresented groups, that's one of the examples for equity. The way we drive, most of the organizations may have a similar framework. Let me be honest about it. When I research organizations, typically it's now DEI or IDE or EDI. Everything is a strategic pillar in most of the organizations. What I feel very proud of the way we do it is, it's a strategic priority. It's built into our leadership goals at all levels. Every single people leader is gold on ID related metrics, and it's on diversity, it's on your inclusion score, and periodically every quarter we use quadric surveys to measure this. So no people leader can really say that, I practice, but I don't know how I'm measured, so there is a common language that's used in the organization. These are some of the ways we are practicing and what's working for us. We have an IDE council that runs in India. The Employee Friends and Resource Groups, which is commonly known as Employee Resource Groups. We have for Women in Technology, there is a Pride group, and more hobby-related groups are upcoming in our organization. And it's a small-size organization. Our number is just 800 across India, so you won't see like too many. I've seen in Cisco, Accenture and all, the ERGs are like way too many, so we are getting there. Flexible work hours, it's the most misunderstood term I feel. Really we give flexibility, people can choose depending on their responsibilities. Wherever we can accommodate flexibility, we do that. Mentorship for underrepresented groups, depending on what we observe, we come up with that. One very important, which is blurred in this slide, I'm not sure why. You may wonder, what is one of the most critical things for ID to work in an organization is having a very good whistleblowing policy. We call it the speak up. Any of you disagree with this or wonder why I'm talking about speak up? Yeah. So if you don't have a channel where you have ways anonymously or with your identity reveal, if you don't have a mechanism to raise your voice, no ID program will work. So I've had to coach, and my team has coached several people who didn't want to go for a formal speak up fearing retaliation, and we have a zero retaliation policy. So one of the ways I think ID works, the policies work very well at FOTEM is a very, very strong speaker. It can be against anyone, including the president of FOTEM, president in the region, anyone. And it's not investigated like by an HR team. There's an independent compliance team looking into it. Sometimes HR will be called as investigators because a lot of employees say, even if I put a speak up, you will only investigate, right? I'm not comfortable with that. So it is an independent body and they have a channel to communicate continuously. So remember, IDE and speak up goes hand in hand, at least for us, that's how it has worked. Then of course we have a common set of tools called FPS, which is promoting Kaizen's problem solving tools where hierarchies are not spoken about. So with the mindset of Kaizen, which is continuous improvement, we drive the culture of FPS. Equity in pay and benefits, which things that we've already spoken about and skipping. We have an inclusion guide for leaders, and every single leader, first-time leader or whoever joins the organization, there is a framework around how they are trained. If people are interested, I can share more around that. Surveys happen every quarter, and inclusion belonging is always tracked as part of that. Breaking bias during performance management, so many biases we spoke about. So breaking bias guide is like the dictionary in our organization wherein you need to be familiar with that, whether it's reviews, calibrations, providing feedback, everything. So these are some of the best practices based on what this is a framework for the Inclusive Leader Program. I'm just skipping. These are the various EFRGs. I'll just end this, sorry if I've exceeded time. This visual at least is clear. So, sorry, the speakers can't see. I don't have time to ask questions, but I'm sure it's saying something, right? Yeah. So, to all the men and women in the group, let's build a more inclusive, not just work cultures, I would say an inclusive world. With that, thank you so much.